Hey, so are you struggling with brain fog, memory issues, or mental fatigue, or any other cognitive related problem? You may or may not be surprised to learn that common environmental and dietary toxins are impacting your brain health. Hi, if you're new here, my name is 𝐿ISA_ANN_DE_GARCIA, and I help you optimize your brain health so you can feel calm, focused, and productive every day, you and your family. And if that's something that you are interested in, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our brain boosting tips. So these harmful substances that can be found in our environment, our water and our food, a lot of them, they're invisible to us, right? We don't notice them. If we did, we wouldn't be consuming them or breathing them or drinking them, but they accumulate in our body and have a significant impact on brain function, leading to symptoms like brain fog and memory problems and mood disorders. So we are going to walk through some of the most common environmental dietary toxins that can affect the brain and share tips on how to limit your exposure. So heavy metals, pesticides, and air pollutants. Let's start with some of these most common toxins. So we have heavy metals like mercury, lead, and aluminum, right? They're everywhere. Used to be that mercury was in our vaccines. Okay, hint. They still are. Maybe not all of them. They pulled them out of some of them, but they're still there in a lot of them. But lead can be found in older homes with the old lead paint. I would like to say that's pre-1979. I would like to say in 2024, people have painted their houses over that. But that was a bigger issue probably in the 80s. And also there's pipes, lead pipes. A lot of places still have lead piping, and so they're drinking from the water. But think about Flint, Michigan, okay. Mercury is found in seafood and some other industrial emissions, and that accumulates in the brain. And the reason it's found in a lot of seafood is because of the boating. If they are getting their seafood from areas that aren't being polluted, then your fishes are going to be fine. But if they're getting them from like very contaminated, like very boaty areas, then that's where you're going to have a problem. So they accumulate in the brain. Why? Because your brain is fat, and heavy metals love fat, and they're stored in fat, and that would cause memory and cognitive issues. If it's in your brainstem, like for young children, if this happens when you're a baby, it's different than if it happens after your brain is already developed. But if it's in your brainstem, you're going to have problems, whatever brainstem's responsible for, right? The brainstem is responsible for sensory integration, so all that hypersensitivities, that's in the brainstem. Primitive reflexes, that's in the brainstem. Brainstem is actually also in charge of things like heartbeat and all the autonomic functions, so there might be issues there. Aluminum is everywhere. It's in your deodorant. Okay, you need to get aluminum-free deodorant. You probably didn't even know that was a thing, but it really is. Your baking soda needs to be aluminum-free baking soda. So go get Bob Red Mills, or there's some other brands, but that's like a big brand. Because it's just in your baking soda, so you don't need to be adding it to whatever you're doing. And aluminum has completely been connected to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, right? So we know that aluminum is a factor in brain problems. So is mercury. Lead tends to go to the bones. So lead does affect IQ, so it does have an effect, and that's a very important, big effect. So kids, my husband told me when they were in Mexico, because his dad used to weld. So welders, they weld with lead, right? And so I think lead tastes sweet, and so kids would just lick it. So pesticides are another concern. Oh, before pesticides, I don't know if I finished lead. Did I say that lead likes to compete for binding sites, the calcium binding sites in your bones? So if you don't get enough calcium or you have too much calcium floating around your body and it's not in your bones where it belongs, then it could be in those spots, and then you can have like osteoporosis or whatever comes with having too much lead. And that's why it's really hard to test for heavy metals, because you can have a urine test, you can have a hair tissue mineral analysis test, and you can have a blood test. And the three together is called a tri-test. If you do all three of them, they test different things, but metals like to hide out. And so if it's in your blood, it means you have it in acute exposure. That means you're exposed to it right now, so you can do something about it. But oftentimes it's just so hidden that it's really hard unless they challenge it. And challenging it is called chelating. So you might have a functional doctor giving you some DMSA, and then giving you a urine test like within the next 24 hours to see what it can pull out. So yeah, testing for metals is really hard. So if you have a test and you go, oh, I don't have any metals, don't think you don't have any metals. It could just be like so buried, and once it starts coming out, and also metals tends to come out in like in onion slices. So the first the first thing you might see to start to come out is lead. You go, oh, okay, or aluminum, one of the two. Okay, I had some lead come out, or I had aluminum come out. Then after some of the aluminum you test, like maybe every couple months, 3 months or whatever, and then you find out that you start to see mercury. You're like, I didn't have mercury before. It was like these metals had to come out first before the mercury can dump. That is something that most people don't know. Okay, pesticides, okay, a whole nother concern. They're used to protect crops from pests. They don't usually stay on the farm. They make their way to our water supply, and in the air that we breathe, they go downwind. All this stuff that they spray on our stuff, if we live near a farm and we're downwind, then we're being affected. Many pesticides contain neurotoxins, which are chemicals designed to disrupt the nervous system and of the pests, but can have similar effects on our brain. So if you think it can kill a little guy, maybe it won't kill us right away, but over time it can still cause a lot of problems. And that affects memory, concentration, and mood. Then we have air pollution, which is a significant source of brain-harming toxins. Pollutants like PM2.5, which is a tiny particle from vehicle exhaust, industrial emissions, and even wildfires. They can cross the blood-brain barrier, leading to inflammation in the brain. Studies have shown that areas with high pollution have higher rates of cognitive decline, mental health issues. Have you ever gone to a super smoggy city? Like, I went to Guatemala City. The last time I was in Guatemala City, not the same. The first time I went, like in 1989 or something, when I was living in Mexico City and I went to Guatemala City. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. It was like horrible. But this last time it wasn't so bad. But it's really, no wonder you get cognitive decline, because you can't think straight when it's like that smoggy. Then we have dietary toxins, so we have preservatives, artificial additives, processed ingredients. Okay, our modern diet is full of these chemicals, and they were never meant to be consumed. Preservatives are like BHA and BHT. Okay, in the last video I talked about, there was a march on Kellogg a couple weeks ago. Why? Because they're trying to get BHT and food coloring out of the cereals. And why are they doing that? Because many other countries ban those ingredients, so Kellogg's makes them with natural ingredients. So why can't they do it for us? There's a reason for that. And BHT is an endocrine disruptor. It's found in packaged foods. They're added to prolong the shelf life, but they're linked to neurotoxicity and cancer and all kinds of horrible stuff. Artificial additives and dyes such as red 40, yellow 5, I would just say any color. Letter colors are made from petroleum. So if I used to see a student that I'd work with, like that would know me, like a 4th, 5th grader or whatever, and walking around, when I was teaching on base, so you would see all your students everywhere, and if they were drinking a blue Gatorade or eating a blue cupcake, I'd always say, why are you eating paint? Or why are you drinking paint? Because basically it's petroleum that they're adding. Obviously, if you're coloring your food with turmeric, it's different, but when you're coloring it with yellow number 5, it's a neurotoxin. So they're commonly found in processed foods. They can disrupt neurotransmitter balance, leading to mood swings, hyperactivity, attention issues, especially in children. Then we have ingredients like MSG. MSG is monosodium glutamate, and it's a flavor enhancer. It's like very salty, right? And it's found in many processed foods. Why were we addicted to Doritos? Because of the MSG. And it causes overstimulation of the brain cells and leads to cell damage, because glutamate is a neurotransmitter that's excitatory, and it should convert into GABA, which is inhibitory. And so you have the excitatory and the inhibitory. But when you are eating MSG, you're getting in too much. The body isn't able to convert it into GABA. It's like way too much. And so too much glutamate is a neurotoxin. It kills off neurons. So children who are on the spectrum, if they have they're very STEMmy, and they might not be eating any extra glutamate. They could be producing more glutamate on their own, or they could be not converting the glutamate to GABA. So it's really important to give them a lot of extra GABA to offset that, because it's killing their own brain cells. So they start at a disadvantage, and then they're killing their brain cells. And what can cause that? Spinning, a lot of spinning. Spinning is really good for you, but when the kids are like spinning too much, that can cause an excess of glutamate, so you have to be careful. And then we have artificial sweeteners such as aspartame and sucralose. They've been linked to headaches, mood changes, and cognitive dysfunction. So these substances can trick the brain and the body in ways that we're only beginning to understand, and also accumulate over time, which impacts the brain's health significantly. So how exactly do these toxins affect your brain? Over time, the brain struggles to filter out all of these foreign substances, so they start to accumulate in your brain tissue. This buildup leads to neuroinflammation. It disrupts the communication between the brain cells. It ultimately contributes to symptoms like brain fog, poor memory, mood disorders, anxiety, depression. So, for example, heavy metals can interfere with those chemical messengers in the brain. That leads to cognitive and emotional imbalances. So we have in our brain, we have serotonin and dopamine. Those are like our mood neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine is our learning transmitter. That's the one really responsible for learning. So artificial additives and preservatives are often linked to behavioral changes and increased stress responses. So reducing the exposure, that's what we're going to talk about next. So here are some practical steps. First of all, organic produce. You need to be eating organic. Organically grown, quote unquote, is not organic. Organically grown means it was organic, they cut it and then they sprayed it. So I don't know what's the difference. Maybe it's just more on the outside than the inside. You want organic produce. Organic produce is basically going to be free of all those chemicals unless, you're downwind, so you might have a little bit. I think our food isn't as perfect as we would like to think because we do live out in the air. But if organic isn't an option, you want to wash your produce when you get home. I have an ozonizer, so I put mine in a glass dish, and then I have this like little tube, and you put it in there, and it ozonizes it. However, I'm not completely satisfied. I think I need to do more. So the ozonizer is going to kill bacteria. So it'll kill stuff like E. coli, but I was just talking to my husband the other day. You can also use blue light. Blue light kills bacteria and stuff, but it's not going to kill pesticide isn't alive. So we have to make sure. So there's other strategies that I do sometimes, but I need to be better at it. So I'm going to say this is right now me processing, thinking this is what I need to do. Using a vinegar bath or a peroxide bath or even a Clorox bath, which is like a little capsule in a big tub of thing. Clorox actually breaks down to salt water. But those are things that you can soak your fruits and vegetables in. But I also bought this powder, and maybe I'll put a link in this is the powder to clean veggies. I think it's like a calcium-based powder. It's a powder, a white powder. You sprinkle it on and then you rub it off or soak it, and it's supposed to help get the residue. Because we have to be thinking between what's killing fungus on our foods, right? That's one thing. Fungus, bacteria, viruses, whatever. But then the other thing is just the glyphosate and the residue. The ozonizer might not be getting that off my food. And I have to own that. I have to realize that there's different problems with our food. So when we bring it home, we still have to think about, okay, is there glyphosate on it? Glyphosate, by the way, I didn't even talk about that. Glyphosate is sprayed. It's from the Roundup. It's sprayed all of our food to dry it evenly. Yeah, they actually make things that are GMO'd are made to be glyphosate resistant, so they can be spraying. It's an herbicide, so they can spray so they don't get weeds, but the crop doesn't die. That's glyphosate resistant. It doesn't mean that it's still not on your food. It's still everywhere. But what glyphosate does is glyphosate was originally made as a boiler stripper, so it stripped the minerals from the inside of boilers. Okay, so imagine what it's doing to your body. It is stripping your body of minerals. And it's causing leaky gut. It causes inflammation in your gut. It's causing a lot of problems. Celiac and gluten sensitivity because the glyphosate is on wheat. So a lot of people are very gluten sensitive, but I think it's because the body has that mimicking issue where it is looking at the wheat, seeing the glyphosate, reacting, and then after a while it's just responding to the wheat. So that's why some people can go to Europe and eat bread and not have a problem. And right now, what binds to glyphosate to get it out of your body? That's humic acid. Humic acid binds to glyphosate. So you can find a product called Restore on Amazon. You can find humic and fulvic acids as supplements in a lot of places. It's everywhere. So you want to take humic acid in order to bind to the glyphosate to get rid of it, because that's a big problem. Filter your water. Many household water sources contain heavy metals and pollutants. Investing in a high quality water filter can help reduce these contaminants. We have a Berkey water filter. There are places in your local area that we have a place in our local area that sells household filtering systems, and as a service to the community, you can go and get free filtered water if you just bring your 5-gallon jugs or whatever, so you can get for free. You want to make sure that it's filtered. Spring water is the best. filtered Fiji water. If you're getting okay, first of all, the problem I have with bottled water is the plastics. That's another thing. The plastics leach into the water, especially if it's been heated. So if you have a water bottle in a car, it's going to leach all the plastics. If you need to have food in plastic or water in plastic, it needs to be cold. So it's like it stays there. But as for bottled water, if you have to buy it, because sometimes you do when you're traveling or whatever, Fiji water is the best because of the silica content. Silica binds to aluminum. So it helps get aluminum out of your body, which is what we're talking about. So silica binds to aluminum. So Fiji has a high silica content because I think it comes from volcanic sources. So that's why the more natural water. Otherwise, you almost need to, if you're using tap, even having a good filter is almost not enough. You need to have a distiller. And I guess if I could have my house the way I wanted, I would love to have a distiller, because if you distill your water or have reverse osmosis, either one, you're taking everything out of the water. But then what you're left with is dead water. And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother thing. Actually, I have an Instagram account called Rejuvenating Light, and on there I'm talking about light, water, and frequencies. But water can be alive or it can be dead. And I don't mean alive in our sense, but it can be more structured and it can benefit you. And if you are drinking like dead water, it's not going to get into your cells the same as structured or more alive water. But so what you do is you have to remineralize it. You have to restructure it, then it'll at least be good for you. But if you know that you are drinking, like if you're in Los Angeles and you're drinking like tap water, oh my gosh, it has so many toxins in it, and it has residual medications from people, and it just has so much stuff in it that you really need to filter it out as best you can. Please do not drink tap water from most of those places. If you live in the mountains in Colorado, drinking tap water may be great. I don't know. I've never lived there. Where I live, it's like in the middle. I don't drink my tap water. And so anyway, we filter our water. You want to be mindful of seafood choices. I need to start eating my seafood better. I'm a lousy fish eater. I just didn't grow up on fish. But make sure that you are opting for seafood that has that's not contaminated, that says mercury free or low mercury or whatever, or you're getting it from wild caught salmon, like from the rivers. The rivers aren't going to be contaminated like a farm, right? A salmon in a farm has a different type of water. So be mindful of your seafood choices. Avoid processed food and packaged products. Processed foods, they're loaded with preservatives, artificial flavors, and sweeteners. And in the last video, I mentioned that, and also said that I have an ebook called How Foods Affect Moods, Learning, and Behavior. So you might want to check that out, only because it gives a very detailed description about different things. Or maybe I've been rambling so much, maybe it was earlier in this video, but I think it was in the last video where I talked about that. But I'll try to put it in the thing. Opt for whole foods and cook at home whenever possible to avoid these additives. You really do need to cook at home. It's cheaper. It's healthier. Don't use a microwave, just use the stove, use the oven. We haven't had a microwave in 10 years, and oh my gosh, I was so happy when our microwave broke, because when it was working, you don't want to throw it out, but then you don't want to give it to anybody because you know it's not healthy. Anyway, you need to start cooking at home. That takes a little planning. It takes planning, okay, that's what I'm going to say. And I'm very fortunate my husband does most of the cooking, and anyway, you can't get in a rut by eating the same thing, too many of the same thing. I eat too much of the same things over and over again. That's not good for you either, but it's way better than eating processed foods. Use clean, non-toxic household products. From cleaning products to personal care, you need to look for non-toxic, non-aluminum containing, natural alternatives. Just clean with vinegar and baking soda. You don't need all those other things unless you have a specific stain and you need one specific product. But you don't need when people say, oh the house smells clean. No, it smells like pine sol, which is chemicals, or it smells like, you don't need it to smell like that in order for it to be clean. If it smells like nothing, it's clean. If it smells yucky, then it's not clean, okay? Use vinegar and baking soda to clean. And most common household products release VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds. They contribute to indoor air pollution and can affect your brain health. Anyway, so just clean. You're thinking you're cleaning your house and you're killing yourself all at the same time. So you're shooting yourself in the foot, but you're shooting yourself in the brain, right? Okay, so take steps to reduce your exposure to environmental and dietary toxins is one of the best things you can do for your brain health. Remember, you don't have to eliminate everything all at once. Small, consistent changes make a big difference. So if this video was eye-opening for you, as parts of it was for me, again, then give this video a thumbs up, share it with somebody who could benefit from learning about their brain's detox system. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, so you don't miss any of our upcoming brain health videos. Comment below if you've ever struggled with brain fog or memory issues. I'd love to hear from you. Write in the comments what you'd like to learn more about, and I will see you in the next video.